We got a little case update, guys, because we got a court date for Melo from Sirconn City. And Sirconn City are GDs over on the east side of Chicago. And for those of you guys who are watching from outside the city, because this is something that I get from a lot of guys who are, especially in the South, the GDs here, it's like all just different neighborhoods now, man. It's not like I don't really know too many guys that are like, on count, like plugged in with some type of national organization. It's just like these neighborhood cliques. Okay, so anyways, don't if you hear like GDs, I got a lot of negative feedback when I had made a video about a set of GDs on the north side that was claiming GDK. They were dropping rakes and they were GDs, and I saw guys in the comment section like hating on them and stuff like. That's how it is, man. It's just a neighborhood, man. So anyways, a Chicago man who allegedly returned to the scene, they said, of a double homicide, searching for his weapon and altered his haircut to avoid being identified, faces a possible life sentence after being accused of gunning down two high school students in a South Chicago alley last weekend. This is from the time that the report came out. So if you guys remember, he was on camera going into the store with the mask, like with his COVID mask, like half down. Now, there were two students in there, younger, and one of them had said like he wished that he was tall like Melo so he could play basketball or something like that. And then Melo had eventually shot them. Now, people were saying all type of wild stuff after this happened. Like he shot them because they said he was too tall, or people were speculating that the students must have beaten him up because he only had one shoe on at that point. And I remember people saying in the comment section when I covered this story, like, well, they had probably jumped him or something like that. No. He was not calmly in the store just talking to two dudes that had just jumped him. They weren't just talking about like, I wish I was tall so I could play basketball like you, after they had just jumped him. They didn't jump him after they left the store. Okay, I saw people speculating that. Well, he must have walked out the store, they must have jumped him, and then he shot in self-defense. No. These two students had nothing to do with nothing. Okay, the territory over by where it was is MTG, and that I think it stands for like the streets, like Merrill, something like that. Don't confuse MTG with 079 MTV, which is Money Through Vernon. That's a different gang that I covered a couple times on the channel. I covered when what's his name, Little Munchie, he just killed Ariana Preston. He's from 079 MTV, and then GMAC from 079 MTV after he had gotten killed by Gutta Gang, or Hit Squad as they're also called, man. But that's a different set. Okay, so Melo was from Sirconn City. He's over like in MTG's hood. These two like teens that he killed were not gang members. Okay, they were not like active gang members. Now in Chicago, now it's kind of tricky because it's like, okay, you live in this block. This isn't like the 90s where you had to join these gangs, get jumped in, learn the literature, all this stuff. If you're from a block, it's kind of guilt by association. Even if you never hang out with these dudes, you don't have anything to do with them and stuff like that. If they just come through and kill anybody from your block, it's like they act like they just scored on you. You know what I'm saying? So whether or not this had anything to do with the conflict with MTG, I don't know. But he was missing a shoe. So at some point, something had happened. Now, I don't know if this was something involving the ops, okay, because all type of crazy stuff goes on in Chicago, man. But at the time, he was 19. Now he's in his early 20s. He was held without bond after being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the shooting deaths of a 17-year-old named Jay Sean and a 16-year-old named Charles. They said now, I had heard that he had gotten jumped by somebody else. Okay, that's what I heard. That's just a rumor. And then he was like, carrying the pipe now in case somebody tried to run up on him and do it again. This is all speculation, okay? And definitely these two kids didn't jump him. They were not the ones that did anything to him and caused him to be missing that shoe. I had heard that some people said that he was a cast. There was no cast, at least not that was visible. I mean, it was a sock. So anyways, Cook County prosecutors alleged that at about 5 p.m. on June 20th, the two teens and an unnamed friend, all students at Hyde Park School, had just returned to a friend's home over by 79th and Luella after shopping at Chicago Ridge Mall. The trio then walked to a nearby gas station to buy some food when they encountered Melo, who was also shopping there. One of the teens noticed that he had a gun in his waistband and commented to him that he wished that he was as tall as him because he wanted to play basketball. Okay, so this is kind of like some deep stuff here. Okay, so you notice that somebody's got a gun. Okay, he starts talking to him. Now, what was going on in these teens' heads, I don't know. Okay, but typically, I mean, as far as like behavior patterns that you'll see in Chicago, if you see somebody's like carrying a pipe or whatever, and you just start talking to them like in a friendly manner, it's kind of like you're letting him know, like, I'm not on that with you. Like, if you get, in case you think I'm somebody that you don't, that you're like not cool with or whatever from the ops block or whatever, like, I'm not one of those guys. Okay, you start talking to him, you start being friendly with him. It's like you're letting him know I'm neutral without saying that specifically. Because if you just come out and say, hey, I'm not with that, I'm neutral, that's basically like saying you're an op, So, okay, he's being nice to him. So he said, he wished he was as tall as him because he wanted to play basketball. So he then exited the store before the three teens. And they began to walk back to the friend's house. So as they got into an alley by the house, okay, and that was a huge mistake, he allegedly approached the group and opened fire, hitting one of the teens in the chest, arm, and back, and one of the other teens in his back, legs, and arm. And the friends heard the shots and turned around to see one of them hit the ground just as Melo began shooting the other guy. And the friend then ran inside his home. And, that was the end of that. Police came to the scene. They were just really good kids, they said, from excellent families, according to the Chicago Police Chief of Detectives, Brendan Denahan. And he said that of the victims during a press conference. And contrary to popular belief, guys, not everybody, okay, because I see this in the comment section all the time, like, just because guys live in the hood and they live in, like, a gang territory, that doesn't mean they're, like, with that. I mean, they're not. Like, matter of fact, I'd say probably 90% of the people from the block, even if they are on social media, like, throwing up crap, they're not actually doing anything. Like, most blocks only have, like, a few really active guys, okay? So anyway, Chicago police responded after he fled and recovered 11 bullet casings as well as a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun that had been dumped in a trash can about 5 to 6 houses away from the shooting site. And they said the ballistics testing showed that the gun matched the casings found at the scene. So the trash cans, I mean, if I'm a cop, that's the first place I'm going to look. Because this is where guys are dumping the stuff. Like, if they don't dump the thing, like, I'm not going to give any guys any hints about a good place to dump stuff, but trash can, police are going to look right there. Okay, and that ballistics is going to come back and be able to nail you every time. So investigators recovered surveillance footage from the gas station and the crime scene and distributed still photos of a suspect to the public. Prosecutors said those photos led to multiple tips identifying Melo. That same camera in the alley also showed a man wearing the same clothes as the suspect returning to the area the next day and searching through multiple trash cans, presumably looking for the firearms. So he came back to look for the gun, okay, in the trash cans. Now, I saw people on some other videos talking about that was a bad move. You're looking at that in hindsight. You're looking at that in hindsight. If he had found the gun and then was able to dispose of it, you'd be saying he did a smart thing. But the outfit is very distinct. Okay, he's wearing a Puma hoodie. He's wearing jeans that are kind of, they've got like that ripped style, and then he's got one shoe. And the mask is down far enough over his face that you can get a pretty good look at his face. Okay, so that same camera in the alley also showed a man wearing those same clothes. And he was arrested on Wednesday morning back then, in the suburb of Schiller Park by the Great Lakes Fugitive Task Force and U.S. Marshals. Prosecutors alleged his hairstyle was significantly different than it was on the day of the shooting. And I don't know, he seemed to have like a twist, and it was kind of short on the day of the shooting, but then his hair was like cut short, even shorter, so he couldn't even get a twist after the shooting had happened. So he was already on probation at the time of the shooting, following a separate gun-related conviction, and the judge cited that previous sentence and the number of shots that he fired in his alleged admission that he was the man in the photos was part of the decision in denying him bond. So the chief of detectives said investigators had not yet identified a motive for the shooting. They said it's just an extremely tragic case of violence. I know it doesn't make any sense. So just imagine how the parents feel. Okay, so anyways, Melo is now 23. He was booked into Cook County Jail on June 26th of 2020. So he's been in there for almost 4 years. He's in Division 11. He has no bond. So anybody that's thinking of catching him, that's not going to happen because it's, he's not getting out. Okay, and these court dates, typically what these are, people wonder why there's so many court dates. These are typically, the system moves super slow, man. Like every time the lawyers have to request some time to review this evidence or file a pretrial motion, then the other side gets to respond to the pretrial motion. There's always like a month or 2 month delay between each of these steps. Okay, we need to file this motion so that they can't introduce this evidence. Okay, then they get to respond. Then, okay, now we want to say that they can't say this, or they have to limit their, testimony to this. There's all these basically rules that they hash out before the trial even starts about how the trial is going to go. A lot of these rules are not set before the trial starts. This is what I learned, like going through the system myself. And a lot of the things that people do that seem to be one thing to the public that doesn't know the law, it's not actually something totally different. Like, for example, when they plead not guilty, okay, this is probably the biggest one. When somebody pleads not guilty, okay, in court, they're not actually claiming, practically speaking, that they didn't do it. People always saying online, like, oh, he has the nerve to plead not guilty. No, 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 no. That's a legal formality. Okay, that's just a legal formality. The lawyer has to do that. Okay, and then later, when they object and they're saying we're going to appeal the decision, or when they ask the judge to dismiss the case, these are all things that the lawyer has to do. Okay, for the purposes of being able to file an appeal later. Like, if you didn't ask the judge to dismiss, it's like you didn't put everything together that you're going to need for your appeal. And so these are all just legal formalities. This is not really, they're not actually saying that, he didn't do it, or he thinks that this case is garbage, so it needs to be dismissed. That's not what's going on. So you guys let me know what you think, though, in the comment section, man. Melo from Sirconn City, a lot of misunderstandings surrounding this case. But lesson to be learned, if you see a dude with a gun, okay, who's not from your hood, and I don't know if they knew if he was from the hood or not, okay, but if the fact that they started talking to him like in a friendly manner after they saw the gun, they clearly didn't know him, okay? So if there's a dude, he's packing a gun, and you can see the gun inside of a store, okay, and, he's not from your hood, you don't recognize him. They were already in a place where there was other people. So I'm staying right there, okay, and then, like, having somebody to come pick me up. I mean, that's the city we're living in, man. So, this doesn't apply, honestly, to people like me, because they don't assume that I'm like one of their ops because of my demographic. But if you're a young black guy, young Latino guy, you got to stay around people, stay where there's cameras. Not that they wouldn't do it there, but the odds are less, okay? And then you have somebody coming to pick you up, whatever you have to do. Wait there. Because if you walk back to the crib through an alley, bro, you're a sitting duck, And you can't realistically be carrying a gun, if you're trying to stay out of jail. If you're 16 in Chicago, like, you can't be doing that everywhere. And I understand guys' feelings and emotions about that, but that's the way the laws are set up right now. So you guys let me know what you think, though, in the comment section, man. What would you guys have done? And again, it's hindsight, but this is your boy Chicago News. I'm out.